So no one's wrong for wanting to take an hour walk leisurely just to do it. And no one's wrong for wanting to run 5 miles at midnight because they want to. So everyone has to make their own decisions with what they do with their time. And in me, I just enjoy working.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Because you get satisfaction from it. It feels like you do, and it's obvious. The joke that I use, it's like, it's the fun game that I get to play all day. It's like sports, kind of, in the sense that it's a little bit different. You have your skill set, but you just apply it a little bit differently every time.
Brendan, could we go back maybe a little bit more, like how long you've been in the business, what you did before, and then kind of how you got started, what that looked like, and then just progressing into where you're at today, because you are definitely crushing it right now.
Thank you. So I got licensed in 2016. And hold on one sec. I'm really sorry. Never mind. It's a structural engineer that was just calling me. Maybe he'll call back or shoot me a text or something.
Okay.
But I got licensed in 2016. And at the time, I was currently working at the Westin downtown. So the Westin Convention Center. I graduated with a bachelor's in hospitality management. So basically, I spent $70,000 to learn how to make people happy. And I could have just worked at a hotel. But I don't think I knew what I really wanted to do. I just kind of wanted to make the parents happy, go to college, get the degree, keep them off my back. And that's really what college was for me. But in the meantime, I kind of was just doing what I wanted to do, as long as the grades were good. And as long as I was able to say, like, hey, I'm fine. They were happy, and I just did what I wanted. So a lot of college, I like to think of it as networking. So like, I was at a different college every weekend. So I college hop, I'd go see this person, that person, this person. So a lot of people don't even know where I went to college, because every other weekend I was at another college, and people would see me so often at their college, they thought I went to school with them, but I didn't. But I would say working at the Westin, my idea was like, okay, well, it's showtime, like, it's time to work. I'm going to work my way up and become this person that's going to run the hotel. I'm going to be Mr. Mosby from Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. And then I realized that they were like, yeah, no, you should stay where you're at and do your one job. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like most jobs,
it's frustrating. Yeah. Stay in your box,
Yeah. Stay in your box, stay in your position. And that's never been me. So I was like, I need to figure out something. So it's either I have to go back to college, which I didn't want to do, or I need to find another job that I'm going to be able to make money at. And from there, a buddy of mine was complaining about his real estate agent. And I was like, oh, I'll be your real estate agent. And I got licensed, and it just kind of started from there. I wasted a year trying to do part-time working at the hotel, and it just wasn't working. So I just quit.
Real estate calls.
Yeah, so the structural engineer is basically like, hey, scheduling conflict, can we do 1 p.m.?
The Tetris begins.
Yeah, right?
And it's wild. That's like, and I mean, that's a perfect example and kind of a segue. Well, so like, to finish that thought, it feels like many people had a very similar experience getting into real estate. What you started to say, and I don't want to finish the sentence for you, but it sounds like a similar scenario with me, where it's like, the idea, like, burn the boats. You said you wasted a year doing it part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you wake up, you're like, oh, cool. I don't want to do either of these at the moment. Like you kind of, it's hard where it's like, pick your thing where you're like, it's very difficult to not commit to something 100% and be successful at it.
Yeah. So two things. Now I have more time, so we can go till 10.
Okay.
And the second thing is like the burn the boats. Here's a story that not a lot of people know. Some people know. It's just I didn't want to make it like a woe is me. So the whole burn the boats thing. So I was working at the hotel, and there was a schedule conflict where I worked overnights, and the manager at the time, he was friends with everyone else, and he put out the schedule, gave me the schedule. I took a picture of it. I leave. Someone someone that was working didn't like the schedule and asked for them to change it. So he changed it. No one told me. I have a picture of the schedule. Long story short, I don't show up for work. They say I no called, no showed, and this was like my last strike or something like that. So they basically suspend me and then decide whether they should fire me or not. So I'm like sweating bullets. I work at a hotel. I make no money, and now I have 2 days off of work where I'm just getting by, and I just don't know what's going to happen. So I'm like depressed, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like poor. I'm going to have no job. So they end up keeping me. And like that feeling that someone had so much control over my life and what was going to happen made me sick.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, how do I make I really need to go. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start Ubering. So I Uber for a weekend. I'm like, okay, a little bit of money, Uber again. I get lucky. I'm like, okay, well, like, all right, like I can make some money. So probably 2 weeks after I get back working at the hotel, I put my 2 weeks in, and I go, hey, I'm not working here anymore. And they're like, wait, you're joking, right? I was like, no. You guys decided to keep me, but the fact that you guys had so much control over how my life went, and no one really cares. It's just basically like, okay, well, do we have to hire someone new, or would we rather just keep Brendan and not go through that process? And that's really what it was. So for me, I was like, yeah, screw that. So I started Ubering, and it was stressful because I was used to having 2 incomes when I started Ubering. So it was the hotel and then Uber. And then it was just Uber. So it was like I had to drive. I didn't have an option. Like it was these days, this schedule, like you have to drive whether I want to or not. And then one day I go out to my car to start Ubering, and it's not there. So I'm like, oh, I lived in Southside at the time, so my car got towed probably once every 3 months. So I was like, my car must have got towed. So I parked it somewhere else. So I go out. I turn this corner, turn that corner, not there. Turn this corner, that corner, not there. I was like, oh, must have got towed, whatever. And then I call, because when you get, I don't know if either of you had your car towed before?
Yeah. There's only so many places it'll go. There's a place like right outside West Liberty Tunnels.
Yeah, and that's where it was. So you call 911, you say your car is gone, you ask if it got towed, they tell you it got towed, they tell you where it's at, and you go there and pick it up. So I'm used to this cycle. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like, where's my car at? And they're like, yeah, we don't have anything on record of your car being towed. And I was like, okay. It must be like on the rig and they forgot to call it in. They're like, well, we're gonna check, but they have to call it in before they take it. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then she's like, I think your car might be missing, so I'm gonna like send the police over. And I was like, whatever. So I'm now like running around the blocks to see like, okay, like I must have parked my car somewhere else, and no. So the cops come, they're like, hey, tell us a story. And to me, it still hasn't settled in yet. And this is a long story. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good story.
This is good.
It's a hard story, but it's a good story.
Yeah. So the cops get there, and like it hasn't set in for me yet. And he's like, okay, well, what's the story? I hear missed a vehicle. I'm like, yeah, well, I parked my car there last night, and I came out today, and I went to like Uber. He's like, oh, so you're an Uber driver? I was like, yeah. He goes, do you do anything else? I'm like, yeah, I'm a real estate agent. He goes, you're an Uber driver and a real estate agent, and your car is missing. How are you not freaking out? I was like, honestly, I'd burn this entire block down if I started freaking out. So I just got to keep calm for now. And so we file everything. He's like, yeah, you should call your insurance company right now, because if anything happens, like you're still liable because it's not reported stolen. So I call the insurance company. You have 13 or 14 days. And if it's not recovered in those days, they call it a total loss, and they cut your check for a portion of the value. So one thing I didn't add is that I just got this car probably a month before they were about to fire me. So it's a newer car.
Yeah.
I quit the hotel, a stable job. I'm an Uber driver and a real estate agent, and my car is gone. So I was just like, all right, well, shit, I just got to figure this out. So my roommate at the time, I don't tell him exactly what's going on, because like, hey, I have no money, and I'm a real estate agent and an Uber driver, and I can't make money. So if I miss rent, like it's whatever. So I don't say anything. But at that point, I started just doing any and everything real estate related I could. So I'm doing open houses, and this is like a 14-day span. I'm calling every and anyone. I'm like going online, finding like expired lists, like old expired lists, just making phone calls, trying to figure out like a way to make money, because I can't do anything right now. Maybe my car comes back, maybe it doesn't, but there was nothing else I can do, so I had to work. So I set up a buyer seminar, and I was like, okay, well, I should get people from the seminar. It's just one of those things. The morning of, I actually get a call at like 3 a.m. I don't answer it because I'm sleeping, and it's a police officer like, hey, yeah, we recovered your car. It's in Lower Borough. If you can get here in 30 minutes, you can pick it up. Otherwise, it's going to go to the whatever yard that they hold cars at. And obviously, I missed a call. So I wake up. I hear that. I'm excited. I go to my seminar. I get a flat tire on the way to the seminar in this rental car. Fix the flat tire. Go to turn the car in, and I stop at my house, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to pay for to get the car back. I'm literally bringing coins. If you look at, I forgot which Instagram it was on, because I have two. I was literally counting coins to be able to pay to get my car back. Yeah, I had nothing. And I get my car back, and they just lived in it. It basically was a junkie living in my car. So it reeked of cigarette smokes. There's cigarette butts everywhere. There was food that was like a week old just sitting in there. There was clothes. Just people lived in my car for 2 weeks. Burnt hole in the passenger seat. So I get my car back. I'm excited, but I'm also pissed off. So at that point, I was like, well, I can't Uber still, because I need to get this car cleaned. And I eventually like get the car cleaned. I had a couple things that were lining up, and one closing, another closing. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need to Uber. So I just need to figure out what I'm doing with myself. And that's where I just was like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep working, and eventually things will start to fall. And that's how it started. And then I joined Joe Yost's team, and things became a little bit more stable. But it was always in the back of my mind was like, shit, like I never know what's going to happen. So talk about burning the boats. That's my story.
That's wild. I mean,
it's a really good story, man. Well, first off, I appreciate you sharing it, seriously, because it's, I'm sure you've told people before, but it's like, it's not fun. You know what I mean? To think about that, and to live in that place even for 5 minutes, Yeah. And I think it's wild, but it's something that I mean, Tim and I have talked about it. A lot of people in this industry have moved here because of experiencing a massive amount of pain and never wanting to go back to another spot where someone else can control it. You know, it's trying to stay not like steps ahead, but like it's you're getting a flat tire in a rental car because your car was stolen on the way to the thing that you're doing to try to make money, and paying in coins, and just like, you know, it's crazy, man. It's not crazy, but it makes sense as to what I said at the beginning, where it's like, and why are you doing what you do consistently? Because I'm never going back to that place.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's the real, I mean, for me too, you know, it's because I'm never going to do that again. That feeling of frustration, that like the lack of control. So
I gotta hand it to you, Brendan, because that's like that whole story and everything. Like that takes a ton of grit and just fortitude to just keep pushing, not letting any of that get in the way. So, I mean, hats off to you, man, because as we all know, the attrition rate's high in the industry. And I feel like a lot of people would have just kind of, you know, thrown their hands up and been like, well, it's just not meant to be. But you're like, no, I'm going to take a bet on myself. I'm just going to keep pushing. And here you are, man. I mean, you're a testament that grit and hard work just gets you far ahead. I mean, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I really do. I'm not one that really looks for a pat on the back, because I'm competitive, but I'm most competitive with myself. So it's something where I'll do something and someone's like, yeah, Brendan, good job. And like, I have a hard time accepting it, because I'm just, well, yeah, I could have did better. And sometimes it's like sharing stuff like that where someone else is like, dude, what? Like, that is nuts. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was just
exactly.
So
yeah, but it's the humility. And I think a key part of that story is just like, you know, the cops coming, you're trying to recover your car, and you're like, it's like, thank you, officer. You're like, why aren't you more freaked out? It's like, how is that going to help?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, what a dumb question. But like, I mean, it's a key part of that story, I think, where it's like, and that plays into, I think that's an extremely important and awesome character trait that you have. And I think a lot of successful people have is the ability to, what's the word? Equanimity. It's like, how much shit can you handle without throwing up? It's just like it's seriously, it's equanimity is how balanced can you be under an extraordinarily high level of stress.
Yeah.
And I think that is an extraordinary quality, and it's something that you definitely possess. So, you know, it's a good thing, man.
Yeah, thanks.
But, you know, with that, then it's, you know, it's difficult, you know, to talk about, but then moving into, you said, you know, you start on with the team, gaining more stability and traction. So 2016, you said a year part-time. So you're into 2017. When did you join with Joe's team? Like 2018, 19?
Yeah. So 2018, like top of 2018. So 2016 in August is when I got licensed. So a year from that is 2017. And then between August to, I think I joined him in February, March-ish. That's when I joined him. So it was a little bit of like hesitancy as well, but I feel like I have an okay judge of character. And Joe is just someone that I was like, okay, well, this guy seems very genuine, and I believe I can trust him. And
yeah,
I was right.
Well, that's good. No, Joe's a good guy, and it's a great team. But it's something too. Have you found that? And Tim, I mean, the question to both of you really, where it's like just in work and really anything, where you find the mentor, you find not the person who's doing like a good job, but it's like the person who's already doing what you want to do at a higher level, someone who's doing it at an outstanding level, because they're going to teach you, and then you're going to learn it hopefully at an excellent level. Because if you just join the person who's average, you're going to learn at a poor level. You know, if they're not doing outstanding, there's no way that you're going to learn at a above average way, you know? And so was that like the motivation, like wanting a mentor, like needing it that sort of way too? Like,
so is this for me and Tim?
well, yeah, I was gonna say it's
Fire
for
away,
you.
Brendan. Yeah, Pete knows my story. It's not that cool.
So for me, I actually wasn't looking for a mentor, and I was kind of against it. So like I've worked with people and teamed up with people at this point in this year's time, and the first person, like it's kind of like someone promises you everything and then they let you down, and I'm like, okay. And then the next person, they're like, oh yeah, and then they let you down. And at that point, I'm like, all right, I understand, I get it. Like everyone's trying to do what they can do, and they're not wrong for that. It happens every day. I'm just not going to be a victim, or I'm not going to be someone that's in a position where I'm not happy because I trusted someone.
Mm-hmm.
So when the thing with Joe came around, I was like, walls up, like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. Like, this is my name. Like, I worked so hard. I'm not going to allow this to happen. And it was something where we were connected. I talked to him on the phone, and I was still like, I don't know. And then I was like, you know what? Like, what do I have to lose?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I really have to lose? It seems like he's a decent person. One of like the more genuine people I've noticed in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And this was 2018, so there wasn't a whole bunch of crazy teams, and the collaboration thing wasn't as popular,
Right.
So it kind of was like, I'm doing 20 million, you're not.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I'm doing 20 million. How can I help you to do 20 million? How can I help you to do this? And it's kind of like, it's the law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
So this is 2018. So everyone's kind of just like, look, I'm awesome. You're not, but maybe one day you'll get there if you try hard enough.
Yeah. It's like puts top producer in your Instagram bio. We're like, good for you.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, that's not a good way. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like that was when someone would put like, and maybe just from my view of not doing as much. Like for me, like if someone did 5 million, I'm like, holy crap! Like, and 5 million is a lot. For me, that was like, if I could do 5 million, I'll be set for life. Like I'll do 5 million every year for the rest of my life and be happy. Like that's where I was at.
Right.
And Joe, I think he was doing like 17 million or something like that. And where I was when I looked at his numbers, I think he was already at like 4 million sold for the year. And this was like March or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, like he knows what he's doing. In worst case scenario, like I'm able to be around someone that like I feel good about as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And just learn from being around them. So that's where I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not happy at Coldwell. I would love to leave Coldwell, and this is my opportunity to get out of here. And unfortunately, I'm giving up my name that I worked so hard for, but maybe this will work out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it obviously has, and that's the thing too. You build relationships in the industry. I mean, we saw Joe last, Tuesday or Wednesday at an event where it's like, hey man, how are you? How is everything? I'm glad you're doing well. Joe's on the panel. You're still learning from him, and he's giving it knowledge to as many people as he can, and I think that does speak volumes as to like who you surround yourself with matters, because you weren't getting it where you were, and it's not the fault of any one individual or the company, but I think it's like a culture thing. One individual,
your environment. I mean,
your environment.
It's obviously huge. Like if you hang out with people that are not, getting up, staying disciplined, whatever, you're going to fall to that level too. But Brendan, can you, I guess, talk a little bit about like your experience on the team, and then like maybe how did you, because you brought your clients, your book of business over, you applied some of that. Like, what are some things that you learned on the team, and then like how did that change your business over time to get you to the point where you went back out on your own again?
So working with Joe, it gave me the opportunity to not think about money and just think about taking care of the client. So, and I think that probably was one of the most important things that I learned there, because I feel like when you're focused solely on the money, you're focused on the activities that will get you money. But if you're focused on the client, you're looking at it completely differently. So if it's like, all right, I just need to get a deal together, and it's okay, they like this house good enough. How do I get them to buy this house?
Right.
Versus, okay, well, does this house meet what they're looking for? Does this house make them happy? Is this something that they're going to be comfortable in? Like, there's a funky thing going on in this house. Will they be happy and comfortable with that later? If the answer is no, the house isn't for them.
Right.
So I've spent, and I say this jokingly with clients, like I will talk you out of more houses than I will talk you into. And it's the truth, because when I decide, or when we end up talking later on, and after you close and now your house is falling apart, that's a phone call for me, a phone call for me, a phone call for me. And then eventually it's like, okay, well, I don't trust him because he let me buy this house and I'm the professional.
Absolutely.
So it's something where I just learned to really put the client first. And that's really what helps me in my business.
Yeah. And that's something that is difficult to learn. It's like the levels of like your needs and in your mindset, right? Where like it's difficult to learn that leadership and that business savvy when you're trying to figure out what you're going to eat for dinner.
Yeah.
In a real example, or like in a broad sense where it's like, oh my God, like I need to do this, versus like, in the way that you solve that problem, I think is like, it's getting the pipeline full. It's making the phone calls. It's knowing that if one thing falls apart, you have 25 more that are following up right behind it. That is an extraordinarily large amount of work to get to that point. And it takes years. It really does. But that's something that, imagine if you had that conversation with any other licensed professional in pretty much any industry. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, we're just going to build this building as tall as we can, and I want it to be the tallest. Where it's like, is it safe and stable? We're like, oh, we don't know. We're just engineers.
Yeah.
Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. So
yeah,
with what you learned then, I mean, Tim, that's such a good question. You learned from the team. I guess, what was the motivation? I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like, what was the driving force then to go back out on your own? Just a little bit more growth on your own terms outside of.
So I think it was something where so when it was Joe and I, that was great. And then Joe joined with Michael Reed and John Chudy, which are awesome guys. And they created the RFY team. So I think when that happened, with that change and the change that came along with it, it kind of woke me up. It was like, oh, that's right. Like this is a business. This is what's going on. So with Joe, it was kind of like, okay, we're just taking care of people. This is awesome. Well, I'm going to make money while I'm doing this. And it almost was like a job where I wasn't really trying to build my business per se. I was completely happy helping build his business because, he's a great guy, like super awesome guy, really great clients. And it really was like a dream. It was like, I get to wake up, I get to meet with happy people and be around happy people. And I was taken care of. So I did my business as well, and I took care of my clients and was like, oh, don't worry about it. Buy whenever you're ready. Let's find the right house. Like super happy. And then joining their team, the structure changed.
Okay.
So it kind of was like I was a single agent again under a team, versus with Joe, it was more in tandem where we worked together. So that change in itself kind of like woke me up. I was like, okay, well, it's not a dream. I am a real estate professional, and I need to start acting like it. So with Michael and John Schutte, their team was very it ran like a business. It was really run like a business. It made sense financially. They had things in place, and it was almost corporate to a degree.
Yeah.
And I am trying to be careful with the way I say things because I don't want it to come off the wrong way. And I appreciate being on the team. Like, it was the number one team in Western Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. They do an amazing job.
Yeah. They crush it. Still crush it. And they're awesome. So with me being more so on the I don't want to say emotional side of things, but like the side of things where I just want to take care of people, it's a little bit different than the side of things of like corporate. Mm-hmm. So things started to change for me to where I wanted things to be a certain way. So that's where I decided, okay, I think it's time for me to figure out what my next move is. And I don't think I really had all that together before I left. I just knew that I needed to do something different. And then there's again that next leap of like, I don't have all the answers.
Yep.
I know I want change. And it's not my place to tell them how to run their business. Like, who am I to say, hey, Michael and John and Joe, you guys are successful people and know exactly what you're doing. I'm this agent that's on your team and I want you to change things. No, like I'm not that entitled. I'm not someone that's gonna try to dictate how things are. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, this is cool over here. This was great. I learned a lot from this, but I think it's time for me to kind of venture out and figure out my own things. So
I think that it's pretty impressive that you were able to tap into like, okay, so it was just you and Joe, and like you said, like a little bit more of an emotional, like people focused business of like just having their best interests at heart, truly, and a little bit less of the corporate setting. So you had that to begin with. Then you went into a little bit more of like a corporate minded structure. So the ability for you to recognize that shift and like what it was doing to you and how that was changing your perception of, you know, the job, the industry. I think it's pretty awesome that you're able to recognize that and then make a correction to maybe now I would assume you're kind of back to where you were in your approach to the business now out on your own again, right? Like you're more people focused and less like just numbers based. Like you still run the business, but you're very much people focused again, right?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like Michael Reed, like they take care of their past clients. They have a client party every year, so they are emotional, and they do care about that kind of stuff. But with so many people, you know, like it went from like mom and poppy, from like Joe, Lindsay, and myself for the most part. So it's very mom and poppy, you know, like you see the same people, like it's not as calculated. And then it went to like a large team. And at that point, like you can't be as mom and poppy. So if you get to that point, it's kind of, the things are still there, the emotions are still there, but there's just so much going on that there needs to be some sort of structure to keep things in line. And me separating myself, it was something where I can take bits and pieces of the two, because I did learn a lot from the corporate structure. And hopefully one day I have a team where I can apply a lot of what I learned from both sides. So right about now, I'm trying to figure out how to marry the two. So there's a lot of inefficiency in like the emotional approach, and then how do you account for that on the business side of it? So
that's the hard part, man. The phrase I like, it's I think it's a Michael Reese one, Tim, one of the guys we work with, is It's a business will never outgrow the size of its systems.
Yeah.
Because you'll just continue to hit the roadblock where it's like, oh shit, and it's like, if you just, I can't think of a good example right off the top of my head, but my question for you with the moving through it, like it, I'm sure you've thought through it in some capacity, but do you think that it was partly motivated by like the fear in the lack of control again, in the sense that like the team is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently still, partnered with a group as well. And like, but it's, you're working in the hotel industry, moving to Uber, real estate part-time, the lack of certainty of, it's not that I disagree with who these people are as individuals. I just want to run my business a little bit different. And I don't have the ability to do that because I'm very appreciative of the help that they've given me.
Mm-hmm.
But now it just feels like I want to go this way. They don't want to, that's okay. So we do our own thing respectfully. And it's a little bit, and I'm saying this from my own experience too. Like that, I'm not trying to put it on to what your thoughts are, but like, is that something that you, I guess, have experienced where it's a little bit of the fear? It's a certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, growth, and contribution. I just did a Tony Robbins seminar this past weekend.
Yeah.
And so those are the six, it's the human needs, where it's like for you, man, it's like the growth into the future that if you don't have that.
Yeah. So I like to think it about, and I just thought about this. So the way that you were kind of like playing it out, I like to burn the boats, but not burn the bridges.
Yeah.
So I know that I need to get from here to there, and there's another way to do it, which would be the bridge, So I want to be able to say like, hey man, like, how's it going? So anywhere that I have been and I go from here to there, like I want to keep that relationship. And it's something that I could have stayed there, like I could have stayed at the hotel. There was nothing that was like forcing me out of the hotel. I could have stayed there. They would have forgot. It would have been, time would have gone by and we'd be like, oh, Brendan, remember that one time? And that would have been fine, And then like Uber, it's like, okay, well, I could have kept Ubering and I guess that would have been fine. And then like when my clients would see me like, oh, Brendan, you're Ubering still, cool. And then Joe and etc. But it does come, I think it's not, I'm still struggling with the business and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So like I was saying earlier, like I just work, like it is a thing that I do. So it's 11:30 at night and I'm going through emails, I could go to bed. What's there? Like, there's no one watching me. There's no one making me do this. It's just kind of what I'm doing. So I just got through 75 hard, and it's a decision that you have to make every day. So for me, I do like the idea of like business being a part of my life and my lifestyle. And there's clients that I meet where they're super awesome, and I talk to them every day, and I hang out with them. And it's weird because like, you got to do your follow-up call, and I'm horrendous at follow-up, very bad.
There's everybody, man.
Yeah, but it's like the inauthenticity of it, where it's like, okay, like I'm gonna schedule a call for you to show you that I care, and it's like, hey, how's it going? But like that is the business side. Like that's what you're supposed to do. That is for business. But for me, it's like, okay, like I'm going to shoot you a text, see you, tell you, let's go here, give you a call. And it's the systemizing of it where it's like, that's the business side. And the personal side is like, I see you on Instagram or you see me and we're just casually having a friendship or relationship.
For sure.
I lean towards that. So, and there's not much of like a control of that. It's more so like existing.
I'm gonna have to think about that for like the next 3 hours because I feel the same way, and it's something that
now.
It is, but it's something that the thought that I'm having too is, this is honestly the reason we're doing this, man, is just it's really to learn from people and to try to help share, what works, what doesn't, and what's making me smile is that I know that everybody has this problem, You know what I mean? Because it's you're not the first person or the last that I'll hear say it. But for me, it's like if I don't schedule it and then I forget, that's worse. You know what I mean? And so like in the sense that you have the authentic, like, oh, you got a puppy and I see it on Instagram, happy birthday, whatever. You know, you call someone for those reasons. But, you know, if for whatever reason you don't see that person in your news feed or you don't remind yourself to do it, you don't send them a birthday card. I don't know. I think that's my internal battle as well, where it's you know, it's having a reason to call.
Yeah.
And sometimes the reason to call is just being like, you know, whatever you want it to be. And I think if you do feel you're just like, you know, in your heart, the reason you're calling is to stay connected with this person. It's you don't have any like ulterior motive. You know?
Oh yeah, 100%.
But it is the challenge, like, to get through. Everyone has.
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm currently working on now. So it's really having that CRM dialed in and really keeping up with everyone. Because now I've been in the business where I get that secondary phone call like, oh, hey, you helped me buy this house. Now I'm ready to sell or do this. And those calls are starting to come around. I'm like, well, shit, what about all the people I haven't called? Or what about the people that I haven't been in touch with? And some of these people that are calling me now, these clients, like I must have done something during their transaction for them to have not talked to me in X amount of time and decide I'm going to call that guy. That is my guy. With all the marketing out right now, with the way that social media is, you can't like open your phone, turn your face, or drive a car without seeing a real estate agent. So for them to decide to give me a call like that, that's amazing. So now it's like, okay, well, I'm happy they're calling me, but do I deserve that phone call? And now my mindset is shifting. Is like, let me earn that phone call. Let me earn that business. So that's where I'm trying to do better with follow up. And like you said, like it's not. I don't have any harm or like harmful intentions of giving you a call.
Yeah.
I want the best for you, so I'm calling you to let you know that.
It's wild, man. I think Tim and I have talked about this a lot as well. I mean, Tim, tack onto it too, where it's like the achiever. You just said it again, man. We're like the achiever attitude, where it's like, what did I do to deserve this phone call? You said it like an hour ago too, where the difficulty of giving yourself credit for doing a good job. We're like, yeah, man, but I could have done better.
Yeah, there's always that, but I think it speaks volumes to like the people that maybe there's a couple years, even like 4 years, you know, however long, and then they come back to you. It speaks volumes to like the level of service and the interaction and experience they had with you the first time around. And I mean, yeah, we all suck with the follow up. It's tough. I guess I'm curious, like just shifting gears here. I know we have like 10, 12 minutes, but
yeah, we don't have to go the whole time.
Yeah. Like in terms of, you know, now keeping in mind, you know, you want to still have a little bit more of like a consistent business approach and, you know, stick with a good CRM. Like are all days different for you? Are there things you do consistently? Like, okay, end of the day, here's my CRM. I'm updating notes. Like, what does that look like?
Honestly, I'm still running and gunning, man.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things where I want to put systems in place, and I'm working on it. And that's how I end up at 2:00 in the morning, you know, where it's like, okay, well, during the day, I've just been handling Tetris. This goes here. And like, I can say, all right, 4 p.m., I'm blocking 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and I'm doing this. And then I get a text, a phone call, a text, a phone call. And that has been my business. So like when you're like, oh, how did you do all like these deals? And for me, it doesn't, like, the individual deal doesn't feel like one individual deal. It just feels like me working.
Yep.
So like I don't even know how many deals I've closed this year. I'm just working. So there is a time and place where I do start to get a little bit more organized and strict with my schedule, where this time blocking, like I have not been able to time block just yet. And I almost need nothing to do. or have nothing to do to be able to do something. So it's just juggling. So to your question, I don't have a set schedule that I do every day. It's just wake up and work. So how much can you get done today? What can you handle? And how many, Ryan Serhant's book.
Big Money Energy. Sell it like Serhant.
The analogy in that book is juggling. So how many things can you keep in the air at once? And for me, that's kind of what it is. So right now, like I was supposed to be at a property inspection, and that got shifted to 1. I look at my calendar. I'm like, okay, well, I have time. So now it's like I get off. It'll be 11 something. What can I do to fill this time? So that's kind of how it works.
That's definitely a different approach, but I mean, I like it because what's the best approach? Like whatever works for you. You know, it doesn't need to be one set thing you do every day to still have a lot of success. So yeah, hats off, man. That's pretty awesome.
It is. Yeah, no, it's something that I struggle with too. I know everybody probably does. You know, it sounds like what, you know, you're making it work. You know what I mean? It sounds like the juggling. I like that analogy. I just think it's something where like, you know, you can only introduce so many new things though. You know, you have to keep it. It's like in your values. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say it, where it's like diet, exercise, real estate, maybe 2 more things max. You know.
I have kind of a selfish question. Not to sorry to cut you off.
No,
Yeah, it's probably in line with what you're thinking too. But Brendan, so for me personally, like I'll give you an example. This year, because of COVID and like our age range, we have like 10 weddings this summer, basically. So here I am trying to figure out like how am I going to keep all these bowling pins flying, juggling in the air, and then still go away for like 5 days and be present in that. So like the way that you are now, like, are you really able to kind of back away for a while without still being constantly glued to it all, or what's that look like?
So that is a very good point, and that's kind of where I'm also trying to make some changes. So like I go to Tampa from this Wednesday. I leave Wednesday evening and I get back Monday. So a part of me is like, oh shit, like, you know, but what I'm learning is that I don't have to do everything, and I'm learning the idea of like delegation and asking for help. So that's where like the team aspect comes in, and I want to build the team to build. So part of Joe's thing was like, I want everyone to like live the lifestyle that they want to live. So it's kind of like, you're going to work, you're going to play, you're going to have time for family. And Joe's a great family guy. He's like very present for the amount that he does. And like, he gets it. So he has a system, and like, it's almost like the ideal, like, scenario. And I look at him and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You're doing it, man. But for me, it's like in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, well, I don't spend a lot of time like personally like filling out my like personal life. So like I'll hang out with friends, like I'll do stuff when I do things. But I'm not like an avid, like 10 weddings. That sounds crazy. like I have two weddings. I'm going to Florida. I have a sister's graduation. So there's things I'm going to do. And I think it's just to figure it out as I go. So I was carless and a real estate agent and an Uber driver, and I figured that out.
Yep.
So as those scenarios like kind of come up more often, I'll be able to start to figure out more. And the answer to it would be a team, or having people to cover me. I reached out to someone already and was like, hey, I'm going to be gone these days. Some people might want to see some homes. Would you be able to help? And they're like, yeah. So, but I don't spend much time just like going out in like hanging out. And as the years have gone by, like I start to get anxious. Like I'll be sitting there doing nothing, drinking a beer, and I'm like itching. I'm like, I should be doing something productive.
It's so funny where it's like I called Tim. I'm like, hey, we just hung out all week. Do you want to hang out? It's just like because other real estate agents get it. Where I'm like, God damn it, I'm probably forgetting something. Why am I relaxing right now? And that feeling of anxiousness, I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think that's the game. How do you be? Okay, well, it's two things. It's like be where your feet are, be present. The ability to shift from one thing to the next throughout the day, where it's like, okay, Tetris inspections later. I'm going to spend more time on this. Not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah,
is difficult, for me, for a lot of people. I guess the question that I'm coming to is like, with all of that, in putting it together, I have you ever like put a calendar together where you put the things that you want to do on it first and then fit work in after? Because it's something that I learned like this past year, and it's like you put your sister's graduation, you put the trip on, and then you fill in around it.
Yeah. So that's what people have like advised me. Like, for me personally, I don't put what I'm doing on calendars. So I'm still getting used to putting that thing on calendars. And I'm a pretty liquid person. So I'm not the flaky friend. I'm the friend that like, hey, if it makes sense for me, like I'll show up. But I'm also the friend where it's like, hey, like I would rather hang out with you one-on-one and go into this space with a bunch of people and do the whole things. And it's not that I'm antisocial. It's just sometimes like I'm not getting like the I don't know. It's like if you have a girlfriend and you only hang out with your girlfriend in public spaces, are you really like getting that like?
Yeah, I gotcha.
That feel.
You're seeking more meaningful connection by
and that's kind of what it is. So like for me, like I mentioned, like going to the bar, like if I want to be at the bar myself, I'm able to be there personally. Like I'm able to be there, like, like be where your feet are. Like I'm able to be present. I'm able to be in the moment. I'm able to do that. But if I don't want to be there and I'm there because like my friend's like, oh, we're going to the bar, you got to come to the bar.
It's my birthday.
Yeah. And it's like, bro, like, can I take you to a dinner? Can I like, let's go do this at some point in time. So as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more involved in my business, it's something where it's like, okay, well, my time has become more precious and important to me.
Yeah.
And what I can do with it to elevate myself. And it's like, hey, like I will take you to dinner, and it's not like I can pay for it, like I want to spend this time with you this way, in the same way like back in the day, when you were in like high school and someone had like $10 and you may not have had $10, like let's go to Wendy's, like I'll pay for your meal. And it's just kind of like that, but we're adults now. So it's like, okay, well, like let's go to a nice dinner and I'll pay for it. It's not like like I'm trying to do anything like that. It's more so like the difference in like what's going on.
We don't want anything except the connection with the people that
you are. That's all,
I think that's something we could all take away is like, it sounds like you're very good at setting boundaries. And you're very like, the importance of your time and you want to use it the most effectively. And I know that sounds like very like calculated, but I mean like, okay, it's better to use this time for us to go to dinner as opposed to like, let's go in a public space where I can barely hear every other thing you say.
I don't think it's calculated, man. I think it just sounds like to me like you're not seeking distraction for the sake of being distracted.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just like you the same thing. I have a TV that like I watch one show and then I'll watch that show and then I won't turn my TV on for like 6 months. You know what I mean? It's the same thing where it's like, not in a negative way. It's not that I don't want to go to the bar for your birthday. It's just that like, I just have other stuff that I really need to do.
Yeah.
I care about you and I care about the time together, but it's like, well, hey, like, I apologize, I can't make it. Would you like to go to dinner next Saturday?
I think it's okay. And I'm not saying, Brendan, like please don't think I'm calling you selfish, but I'm just saying generally, like, one thing I'm learning is like, hey, it's okay to be selfish in certain instances of like, oh, it's a Thursday at 6. Like, no, I just need a little bit of time for myself. Like, I'm not gonna go do that. It's nothing against you. I need this time.
It definitely is a little bit of a selfishness, but it's I think when you're being selfish and why you're being selfish and how you're being selfish is the reason when it's like acceptable or not,
Yeah.
So like, let's say like you have a family and your friends may not, like you have a newborn baby. Your friends are like, oh bro, like let's go out and have drinks. It's like, no.
Right.
Now you're looked at as selfish,
Yeah.
but your higher power, your greater means is not like that child that you have. So it's like
Absolutely.
you have to start building those boundaries of I think it's self-control, because if someone can text you or reach out to you and say, hey, you're doing this, and you have no control over what you're doing or whether you want to or not. And the amount of conversations I'll have with people and they're like, oh, like, I don't want to do this, and now I'm doing this, and I'm upset about me doing this, and I don't want to do this.
Man.
And this.
Drives me crazy.
It
drives me nuts.
Did somebody have a gun to your head? Did they make you do that?
Yeah.
Put your oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
Before you help everyone else. In order to be selfless, you must be selfish, because if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you're just dead. And that's not helpful to any of us.
Yeah, I think we should send this interview to Andy Frisella because Brendan, like, you're living life on your own terms, and I love the shit out of it. I mean, I think it's great. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
75 hard, man. It's a good thing. Well, okay, it's 10:01. I was gonna close on that question just because we've all done it. The 75 hard question of like, what do you think the biggest takeaway was from that experience? Maybe is the ending of it here too, because congrats on doing that, man. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest takeaway is that it's okay to make your own decisions that are going to better your life. So with 75 hard, like you're not drinking, and I mean, it is everything you do. It's like, let's go have a drink and then do this. Let's go have a drink and do this. Let's do this. Let's have a drink while we're doing this. So I have to then decide that I'm not going to join the tribe and do what everyone else is doing. But I can be there. I can be there and I can have a water. I can do different things. So the decision of going to the gym instead of going to the bar, or going out to dinner with everyone and then coming home and still needing to do that cardio and doing that cardio. So, and no one's dead for me making these decisions. No one's hurt. No one's upset. And everything's fine. So we're all afraid of making these decisions for ourselves to better our own lives. And eventually normally like people have like a little bit of pushback, it's like, okay, like, why aren't you with the tribe and doing everything? But after a while, they're like, okay, well, I like what he's doing. That's awesome. And then they're happy. Then they're cheering you on and they want you to do these things. I think everyone should like spend some time and figure out what they want for themselves. Because this isn't for someone else, like if you enjoy spending time with people, you enjoy having a good time, you enjoy having a drink, drinking wine, beer, whiskey, whatever is your thing, like you're not wrong for that. I think when people are upset with themselves and just figuring out what it is that you want and then going after it.
I absolutely agree.
I love it.
Yeah. It's something that's very interesting to experience, where the new phrase that I love, it's your life is a reflection of the expectations of your peer group. And whenever you're saying, we're like, oh man, yeah, I'm doing this thing and I'm not drinking. We're like, why? Because I'm doing this thing and I'm doing this a little bit different. And we're like, well, that's not what we want.
It's going to bring you down your level or to their level. It's like,
Well, and it's bring you up, bring you down, but it's
I don't mean just down. I'm saying.
Well, but the thing is though, in like, I started 75 hard for the 6th time in Las Vegas. And everyone's like, what are you doing? I was like,
yeah,
I've been here 10 times and I've been blackout drunk all of them. And this time I'm not going to do it. And guess what? I learned more in the seminar than I ever have in my life. I won money playing blackjack for the first time in my life. Like you talk to people and just throughout that experience, everyone that I spoke to that said, oh yeah, I'm not drinking. And they said, why? You look around, you're like, what is their life like? And everyone that I said, I'm not drinking to, and they said, oh, fuck yeah, man, that's awesome. All of their lives are way up here, you know, and it's not because they give a shit about what I'm doing. It's their attitude towards like, awesome, good for you. What can I help you with? Versus why aren't you doing what I want you to do? You know, it's wild to think about, but you know, I think that challenging yourself to do that sort of stuff, man, is amazing. And maybe next year we can do it as a group. 75 hard.
Well, I'll be doing 75 hard again.
Yeah. Maybe next 10 years.
Yeah. I did it last year as well. Like I kind of half-assed it, but I think the core principles of it was the not drinking, the workout, the diet. So like if I didn't drink a gallon of water a day, I wasn't like, I'm not restarting. Like, what do you mean? And then if like I read contracts all day, like if I wasn't going to read like 10 pages, like, no, I'm not restarting. But doing it again was the like almost like the solidifier and a lot of that stuff and the importance of it. And taking it more serious this time around. It's like, okay, well, I get that. So when I was like, all right, well, I just want to go to bed, but I haven't done cardio, but I want to go to bed, but I haven't done cardio.
Yep.
You do cardio and then you can go to bed. And after cardio is done, I go to bed and I'm happy. Like I'm done with 75. I know we're running over, but I'm done with 75 hard. It finished on the 18th and I'm still lifting and doing cardio every day. So I think that I need to take a rest day. I really need to take like a week off and then get back to it.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of setting these habits and then building upon them. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah. It's not negotiating with yourself. Because what you just said is amazing. I mean, that might just be the solid thing to end on, really, is like, I need to go to bed. I need to do cardio. I committed to doing cardio. I do the cardio, shower, then go to bed. 45 minutes of my life. I go to bed happy. I wake up as a confident, self-esteem built person who does what they say they're going to do. And I think that that's where a successful life is created. Like it's in that you're alone at midnight by yourself being like, God damn it. Like I forgot to do the thing and you do the thing, you know, and it's like, that's the separator, man. And it, you know, it makes sense as to why you've been continuing on a uphill, very positive climb with real estate and life overall. So, you know, I appreciate you jumping on with us and
appreciate you so much, man.
Looking forward to seeing you soon.
This is great. You keep getting better and better.
I mean, you guys set it up pretty well. So I appreciate that. It kind of talking through this stuff, it's not a normal conversation for me. So it's like, I'm not half bad. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Good, man. Good. We want you to feel that way. You deserve
it's true.